I didn't really notice at first, which I think is how it gets most people. Because nothing really changed on paper when I hit 30. I still woke up tired, went to work, came home, played a bit of video games, still did all the same stuff I've been doing for years. But somewhere along the way, everything just started feeling heavier. Like the same situations that used to roll off my shoulders now just have weight to them. Not in a dramatic kind of way. It was just kind of quiet. More annoying way where you just can't pretend you didn't feel it anymore. I think that's the part nobody really talks about. Because aging always gets framed like it's either a joke or a crisis. And honestly, to me, it's neither. It's more like the moment where you realize you've been carrying things on autopilot for a long time and your brain is finally asking you why you're still holding on to them. And playing Warwick in jungle for the last week, he kind of lines up perfectly because people look at him and think he's just the brain off, run at red bars champion. But the second you actually try to play him like that, a full game, you get punished immediately. Because chasing everything feels good for about 5 seconds. And then suddenly, oops, I'm overextended. Crap, my ult's on cooldown. And now, I'm standing here, wondering why I committed so hard to something that was never going to end well. Playing Warwick in that way is basically your 20s. You chase everything because you can. Because the consequences don't feel real yet. You know, you go out to the bar, have a few drinks, wake up in the morning, hangover. What are those? But every bad decision still feels like your learning experience instead of compounding problems in that age range. So you end up taking jobs that drain you, stay in relationships that exhaust you. And yes, you do the things that you don't even really necessarily want to do. And you convince yourself it's all a part of something bigger. Maybe it's your anime protagonist arc. And you'll understand everything later in life. But later always feels infinite when you haven't felt the recovery time yet. But after 30, you start feeling the recovery. Not just in a physical way, but mentally, emotionally, socially, all of it. You go out to the bar and drink in your 30s, yeah, you might have a good time, but you're going to feel like you got run over by a truck for the next 3 days. And that's kind of where you stop reacting instantly to everything. Not because you're slower or maybe a bit jaded, but because you finally see enough endings to know that just because something is low doesn't mean it's worth diving for. And that hesitation gets misread a lot. People think you're bitter, maybe you're a bit checked out, or in a Warwick situation, not hungry anymore. When in the reality of it, you're just done pretending every situation deserves the same amount of effort because you've learned the hard way that effort isn't free. And once you spent that energy, you don't always get it back quickly, if at all. Some people say that money is the currency of the world. And to an extent, that's kind of accurate. However, once you start getting older, you realize energy becomes the real currency. Not motivation, not ambitions, not good vibes, just pure energy. And once you start paying attention to that, your entire decision-making process changes whether you want it to or not. You stop answering everything immediately because most things aren't actually urgent. Oh, you got a notification on your phone? I'll look at it later. Oh, looks like Susie's calling again. I'll call her back later. It's at this time you stop explaining yourself in circles because the people who respect you don't need the explanation. And the people who don't weren't gonna hear it anyways. And so you stop chasing conversations, the opportunities, and the expectations that only exist because you've always chased them before. Honestly, it felt uncomfortable at first because you're used to filling spaces, filling the silence, or filling some role that you have with somebody else. But eventually it just feels like relief. And yeah, you start seeing patterns everywhere which sound negative until you realize it's actually protective. Because you can tell pretty early which situations are going to drain you, what jobs are going to burn you out after 6 months, and which relationships only work as long as you're the one bending. And once you see all that, chasing those things doesn't feel exciting anymore. It just feels like a second job. This is also where the whole gaming after 30 thing is such a weird conversation to me. Because games are one of those few places left which the rules are clear. Any feedback, it's immediate. You do something wrong, your teammates are gonna let you know. And the system doesn't pretend it's fair while quietly punishing you anyways. And Warwick especially doesn't lie to you at all. Because if you misplay, misstep, overextend, miss your R, you know it. You already overcommitted, and now you're paying for it. But if you wait, track, choose the right moment, the game rewards you for having restraint. That kind of honesty becomes comforting once real life starts feeling vague and full of invisible expectations nobody actually explains. You don't necessarily stop enjoying games after 30. You just stop using them to escape and start using them as something that fits into your life instead of consuming it. You log on when you're present, and you log off when you're not. And before you know it, that mindset bleeds into everything else without you even realizing it. You stop trying to look impressive and start trying to feel stable. You stop chasing visibility and start protecting peace. And you also stop romanticizing struggle once you realize and understand how long it actually takes to recover from it. Loss hits different also. Not because you're necessarily fragile, but because you understand what loss is. Whether that loss is time, energy, or a vision of yourself that just doesn't exist anymore. But the upside is that you don't spiral the way you used to. You don't repeat the same mistakes or stupid things you used to do just to confirm it was a bad idea. And you don't confuse suffering with progress anymore. You learn, you adjust, and you move on. Because late game in life isn't about you proving you still have it. It's about knowing when to disengage before things collapse. Warwick doesn't chase forever. And honestly, neither should you. And yeah, we still have those days where you feel behind, where you look at people who hit milestones earlier in life or seemingly have their life more put together than you. But comparison after 30 is almost fake. Because everyone's playing a different map with a different win condition. And most people don't even realize what they're optimizing for until they're already way too deep into it. Life after 30 isn't about being happier or more successful than the next person or your next door neighbor, or being more put together than somebody else you know. It's about minimizing unnecessary damage, choosing what actually deserves your energy, and letting the rest go without turning into some personal failure. It's not harder. It's just honest. And once you've learned when to stop chasing blood just because it's there, you start surviving a little longer.
Violence can be death or a way of life.